So, the very last Game Informers. Here we have issue 366, 367, and 368. The last three issues. And I wanted to just take a little bit of time to flip through these things and really respect where this came from. And I don't know, guys, I'm just kind of sad about really the last physical gaming magazine disappearing. So, what was Game Informer anyway? Well, Game Informer is a gaming magazine that's been around for like 30 years in the industry, and it has been owned and operated by GameStop at least over the last, 10 or 15 years as far as I know. But this magazine has been a pretty unbiased, industry-wide magazine that talked about everything. Nintendo, Xbox, there was even PC stuff, Sony, of course. And there was a time, I was actually watching a Kit and Krista podcast where they were talking about Game Informer and their memories being in the promotion wing of, the marketing and promotion wing of Nintendo. They're talking about doing promotions with Game Informer to get covers and things like that. And from Nintendo's perspective, Game Informer was actually a really big deal. Like, to be able to get a Game Informer cover was a really big deal back in the day. Now, I think it kind of tapered off towards the end in terms of popularity, but I think this magazine was still selling pretty well, physically speaking, because it was in every GameStop for sale. And, I don't know, guys. What do you think about gaming magazines? I know I've done a couple of videos just flipping through some old magazines, but this is a brand new magazine. Here's interesting. Let's have a look at this. So, preservation through play. So this is an article, and this is fantastic. This is an article about Digital Eclipse, and this is the company that does all of these fantastic collections of old games, like the Atari 50 collection that came out, and these guys are just absolutely fantastic. And to be able to have a magazine that can give you some behind the scenes into a development studio like this is really kind of cool. You can see here they're talking about Atari 50 and the work that they did on that. This is talking about the making and mythology of Hades 2. Hades 2 I have not played yet, but I absolutely loved Hades 1. The artwork is just absolutely stunning in these games. So this is issue 366, and I think 367, 368. Yeah, so this is the very last issue, and I think this is what people are really going to want to take a look at down the road here. So, Game Informer has been around since 1991. Keep us around for another 30 years. Like what we do, we need your support. This is crazy. This is in the very last issue, which they had started putting together just before they got shut down. And there was we weren't sure if we were even going to get this issue. Several of the creators of Game Informer took to Twitter after they got shut down to say they were halfway through the final episode. And they were quite upset that they weren't going to be able to, continue and finish the issue or whatever. So let's see what they have to say. We have an editor's note here, the long view. If you've been following along with our work at Game Informer for a long time, you've probably noticed the natural ebb and flow of content that defines the cadence of coverage. Every summer is often characterized by increased announcements and reveal previews as game companies show off what's coming next. As we roll into the holidays, we ramp up our review and launch coverage as dozens of big games compete for attention at release, sometimes available access for interviews that many of our long-form features are ready to go simultaneously. That's the case this month, as our issue is chock full of deep dive, investigative, and interview-focused pieces from around the gaming landscape. From our cover story, we got a big story for horror enthusiasts. The team behind Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures anthology has teamed up with the developer-publisher of the Dead by Daylight for the casting of Frank Stone. So right up till the end here, they had no idea that they were being shut down. It says right here, our next issue launches digitally on 8/27 with the print edition to follow. But this never happened, right? Like, this will never happen. So, it's really sad to see. I know I'm silent here, but I'm just taking this all in. The level of quality here for something that got canceled. Like, this is a fantastic magazine. Despite the fact that it's owned by GameStop, there's absolutely no indication that they're shilling things that they want to sell. Like, this is an unbiased take on the gaming industry that is not being influenced by a retail presence at all. There's very little in the way of ads in here, which may or may not be a good thing. But you would think for something that is, put out by a massive retailer, that this would be full of advertising space for things that are being sold in the store. But I'm not seeing, how many pages have we flipped through here? Like 30 pages. I haven't seen a single ad space. Maybe that's a bad thing because they weren't bringing in money from ads. But for me, the fact that they weren't advertising their own business in the pages of Game Informer really lends it some credibility here. So here's a 2-page spread for Visions of Mana, but again, this is not an ad, this is the beginning of an article. Visions of Mana just came out, week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and it's been pretty well received. And here they are taking a close look at the game before release. Here we have a close look at Avowed, which is still to come out from Microsoft. In fact, I think I heard that this was being delayed into 2025. Lego Horizon Adventures is something that I'm pretty interested in checking out on the Nintendo Switch. I've been trying to find the time to get into the into the Horizon series, and I feel like this might be a good entry point. Monster Hunter Wilds is the newest Monster Hunter game that is coming out, and I'm looking forward to that. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. We got the announcement for that in a direct a couple of months ago, that it's finally on its way. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Okay, here's a really... this is going to go down in the history books here, because we all know what's happened with Concord. Concord released about two and a half weeks ago, and it's already been shut down for a variety of reasons. But let's hear what Game Informer had to say about Concord a couple weeks before its launch. Last month, PlayStation released the first big look at Concord, its upcoming 5v5 multiplayer hero shooter from Firewalk Studios, a team it acquired last year. Though the cinematic introduction might have teased something like a single-player, narrative-driven heist game akin to the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, the gameplay footage showcased the strictly multiplayer experience in a new light. Admittedly, this reveal left me feeling blasé. It looked fine, but not necessarily something I hadn't seen before. However, after playing Concord for a few hours during a recent preview event, I'm excited for more of the action, which feels like a mix of Destiny and Overwatch, even if I'm wary of the team's emphasis on lore and storytelling paying off in a multiplayer-only format. So, yeah, they were pretty on point that, the game doesn't really stand out in any real meaningful way, and its focus on characters in a multiplayer environment is kind of silly, especially when the characters are so unappealing to begin with, and it's just really didn't hit with people, unfortunately. Here we have coverage of The Plucky Squire, which is a highly anticipated indie game coming out of Devolver Digital. We've been watching trailers for this for a couple of years now, actually, waiting for this to come out, so I'm pretty interested. We did get a release date for this. I think it is this month, September or October, I can't remember, but this game's looking to be pretty great. I've heard some kind of jokes about this Infinity Nikki. Apparently it's like a fashion RPG or something. Hey, don't diss it till you've tried it. Some coverage of Diablo 4 DLC. Metal Slug Tactics is another one of these games that's been bouncing around, I guess, in development hell or something. It got announced like 2 years ago and went radio silent, but apparently it does have a release date now. Some coverage of the Persona 3 Reload DLC. I have no idea what Citizen Sleeper 2 is. And then we've got some short-form coverage of a few other games that are mostly still coming out, like Mario and Luigi Brothership. Dustborn came out not too long ago, and it's another major failure. We've got some reviews in here. Final Fantasy, Destiny 2, Still Wakes the Deep. So, it's a crying shame that this magazine, this legitimate professional take on the gaming industry, is gone now. And all we're left with are these, online behemoth, websites like IGN and Game Informer, or not Game Informer, IGN and, Nintendo Life, and big websites like that, that honestly, the quality on those online websites is pretty poor. But, so this one was talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard, and this one was talking about the making of Hades 2, but you can just see from our time flipping through these magazines that it's just a really high quality experience, and it's an absolute crying shame that this magazine is no longer with us, not only physically, but digitally too. Like, the entire business has gone. It's not just like they've quit printing physical magazines and gone all digital or something. It's completely gone. The website's gone, the archives are gone, everything is just completely gone. Anyways, guys, thanks for stopping in to take a look at these magazines with me. I'm going to treasure these. I do have a few Game Informers and quite a few other old gaming magazines, but having these last 3 Game Informer magazines is really going to mean something to me in my collection going forward. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy.